Hello, Echo here. I usually like to share things that worked for us and that we really liked, but every once in a while I feel like I need to share something that didn't work because just because it wasn't a good fit for us might not mean that it's not a good fit for you. So today I'm sharing A Reason for Science, Level F. My goal last year was to do more hands-on experiments with my kids. Cue A Reason for Science. This is a Christian-based curriculum, and it looked like it was really simple and straightforward, lots of hands-on experiments. And when I looked through the different levels, I thought level F was like the start of things that maybe we hadn't done before and would be interesting and some new concepts for them, and I just liked what it covered. And then we got into it, and some of the experiments were very simple. Other ones didn't work the best. We kind of fell off the wagon. We did a few weeks of it and it just really didn't feel like it was going anywhere for us. And then we did like a fast version of it where I would just kind of read through the lesson, and if they wanted to do the experiment they could, but a lot of times like I would read through it and they'd be like, yeah, we know this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and or no, we're not interested in doing that. Or a couple of things they did it, like they have the Chinese finger trap toy, and so like they liked playing with that. So they did have some fun a little bit with some of it, but overall it felt a little disjointed, and they would throw a Bible verse at the end and kind of try to make it fit with the experiment, but it, again, felt a little disjointed to me. But I do think that this could be a good one if you have a co-op, and so you could pick through the lessons and pick the ones that you think will be best for the group of students you're using, because it is like do an experiment, answer the questions, and they do have some extra things that you can do along with it. So it could be good for that. It could be good for some students who maybe haven't had a lot of science time, or maybe as a parent, you're not really sure about science and teaching it, and so maybe this would be a good fit for you. So either way though, I'll show you inside and you can see if maybe it's a good fit for your family or not, and see more of like what I'm talking about with the things that it offers. Time for a real page turner. A Reason for Science, Level F. I believe this coincides with grade 6. Hands-on with scripture values is what they say. So there's two books, the Teacher Guidebook and then the Student Workbook. So we'll start here in the Teacher Guidebook. It explains here about the learning process, the methodology, the components that are here, because this does meet certain standards, and it says that as you go throughout it. It shows a sample lesson, and then the weekly lessons are broken up into life science, physical science, earth science, and physical science. The first physical science is forces, and the second is energy and matter. Then there's some quizzes in the back and the answer keys to them. So here it's talking about their methodology and their ideas behind it, the components that are involved. It talks about the material kit a little bit and the assessment, safety issues, things like that. And here it just shows like here's the national standards that they have, and here's the materials that you need. If it's bold-faced, then it's included in the materials kit, but if it's not bolded, then it's something that you need to grab. And then there's these other notes that are in the teacher's book. One thing that I do like about the teacher's manual is that it does show the lesson part that the students see. So you'll see right here, this little part here is what is on the student's page. And they've ripped it up, so they're showing you like for the beginning, here's what's going on. So for lesson 1, the category is life science. The focus is seed structure. The objective is to explore the structure and purpose of seeds. It shows what national standards it meets, tells you the materials that are needed. Here it says peanut and shells. And even though this was bolded, I feel like it was not in the kit, which makes sense because it's food, so maybe it was just supposed to not be bolded. And then the safety concerns, talking about if people have an allergy, and then additional comments about it. People being allergic and monitoring closely and making sure that they're not eating the experiments, and an overview of it. Create an atmosphere of curiosity and inquiry, which I agree with that. I think that's great. Okay, then here it's showing the bottom half of the page in the student book. And then teacher to teacher, this has something that's a little bit deeper, which I liked that, and I would read that part to my kids. And then over here, they have written out the same thing that's written in the student book, so you can read it to them. And then it shows you what the answers to the questions would be that are in the student book. So you can see here what answers they have written down. And this was interesting, but it's very short. And when I read through it, like, you know, my kids didn't know phototropism and what that means, but the basic structure of the seed and things they understood. So I would say that we did learn some vocabulary words. We did talk about some vocabulary words as we were going through this. And I did like that there are only 36 lessons, so it is one a week. So that was good. But otherwise, really wasn't a lot that they learned. Now, this extended teaching part that I just showed, this could be good too, especially if you have a co-op or something like that, or maybe it would have helped us to grow the lesson a little bit. But these would be other steps that you're taking that I'm not interested in doing with my kids or didn't feel like they would be useful for us. A lot of times it's like internet searching or putting together a project or something like that. Okay, so the teacher's manual goes along same way. Shows you the beginning half of it with an overview of what the lesson's going to be. And then it shows the bottom half. It has the teacher-to-teacher explanation where it's giving you more information on what they're learning. And then it has the exact text out of the student book with the student pages shown. And then on the back side, again, it shows the student page, but then it has these extra activities that they could do. So all the way through, that's pretty much what this is going to look like. So at the end, when I was going fast with it, I was literally just reading the experiment part to them. I would read the teacher-to-teacher part. I would read the lesson part. If there were any questions, but usually we didn't need questions because just doing this, we would discuss it. And then I would look over the verse at the back and a lot of times just say the little lesson that they had connect with the verse. So maybe an example for that too. So like, let's see what this lesson here. It covers salty solution to explore a physical change. Why isn't the ocean around the North Pole frozen solid? Do solutions have different properties than water? In this activity, we'll explore how some forces interact. So here they're freezing water with different things, like with salt in them, and labeling them, putting them in the ice, making notes about them. And then let's see, the Bible verse that they connect to that is James 3, 7 through 12. And it says here, looking at the water in the two ice trays, it was difficult to tell which was which before they froze. That's why we need the labels. Yet even though they looked alike, the behaviors of the two were very different. This scripture talks about the effects of our tongue. The same mouth can say nice things, building someone up and making them feel better, or it can say mean things, hurting someone's feelings and making them feel bad. James reminds us that we need to tame our tongue. Before you speak, make sure the words you say are positive reflection of the loving God you serve. So, I mean, maybe you feel like it's more connected, but for me, it feels a little bit of a loose connection that they've tried to tack on the Bible verse at the end. Although I still discussed it with them, but I didn't necessarily feel a connection to every lesson. Okay, and then at the end, there are these assessments. These were kind of neat, and I did go over some of these with the kids, so I would just keep a bookmark here and keep a bookmark up at the front, and we would just orally, I would take turns and be like, okay, you answer one question, you answer the next question. So you can see true and false, or A, B, C, D. So they're pretty easy as far as that goes. It's kind of a nice format, especially when we're doing it orally. Okay, so it goes through all of those for the different lessons. And then at the end, there is the answer key for those. So it's definitely streamlined. I can give it that. Here at the end, there's also a shopping list for the things that are not in the kit. So very basic things though, nothing here that would be too difficult to get. All right, so we'll take a look at the student work text, although you did get a good peek of it inside the teacher's manual. And here it shows them the different topics that they're going to be learning about: life science, earth science, energy, forces. And here, learning to be safe, has the little worm that will warn them if they need something, or to be careful. Okay, so here's the first lesson, You've recognized this page, I'm sure, from in there, where it goes over what the point is. Then it has the experiment. It's always telling them to write things down. And then we have the little lesson part, which matches the one in there. You can see that there's highlighted words. That would be vocabulary words. And then there's the questions and answers. And then on the second page, it has the conclusion. And then the food for thought, which is whatever verse they have picked to go along with the lesson. And then they can journal and do notes. So here there was a burr. I did have to find one of those. Oh no, maybe they had those in there. I feel like there was something here I had to get. Okay, so you can see here, you know, there's different steps, different experiment types that they're having. Same thing here where they, you know, they're chopping up. One has yeast, one doesn't. My kids were like, yeah, we know what's going to happen. So it might have just been that my kids have had a lot of science exposure, and so for them this wasn't as good of a fit for their level. This was another one that was connected to the same experiment, so we just did them both at the same time. But then there was some like this. So here you get this bag of beans, which is in this kit, and they need to sort them. And they were not interested in doing that. That felt too simple for them. Here you can see where it's talking about sorting, classifications, things like that. You can tell, you know, at this point we're like not even writing in answers. We're kind of just talking about things at this point, which I love conversational homeschool anyway. But you can also see how maybe for a co-op or something, or depending on the age of the kids, this could be good. Here there was a bag of toothpicks that are different colors, and you throw them on the ground to show camouflage. Again, they were not interested in that, which I don't blame them. So yeah, so it was kind of a combination of ones that were more and less interesting to do. But I hope this helps to give you a look inside of this so you can see if this is a good fit for your students and where you're at. Here's one that we did that was kind of interesting, but again, didn't work the best. It was erosion and showing a chemical change. So you put in the limestone and there was some change. It did bubble, so that was good. One of my sons did this where he did the filter, but it didn't really fit right, and so it didn't really work right. The water came out brown at the end, which maybe he did something wrong on it. He tried his best. This one, you're literally taking a CD, cutting foam in half and gluing it on. So I mean, I'm sure you can see how it's kind of a combination of some things that are more difficult, or maybe something that kids haven't done, or yeah, I don't know. I guess I've said enough. So let's move on to the kit. This is nice. Having all the pieces together is definitely nice. It comes in this little tote, and it has a list right off the bat. Here, let me bring you up. Ooh. It has this list, which is really helpful right off the bat, that tells you the lesson number and what you have and what you're going to need. So that was good. And it's got the pieces and parts in here. I did find some of the labels were rubbed off on these, but I could make them out enough to know which went with which lesson. And there are plenty of materials in here because it is meant for multiple people, like in a class or something, to use it. So that was nice. And they were definitely excited when they first opened it up, you know, seeing all the little parts and pieces. But then, you know, like they're excited to see the CD and what are we going to do with the CD? But then when they found out, oh, we just got to cut the ball and put it on there, they were like not interested in that. So, yeah. Well, I hope this was a helpful look inside for you, and I hope you don't feel discouraged because it didn't work for me. This could be a great fit for you. Do what's right for your family. Try what you feel like is going to be best. Everybody's different. Every kid is different, and that's fine, and that's why there are so many curriculums out there. But I hope this was a helpful look inside. Remember that where life is messy and beautiful, and better with books. I'm already feeling like, I don't know. Okay.